Okay. A century before a century before George Westinghouse ever made household appliances. Uh, Back in the 1800s, since the early stages of the 1800s, he was in the model train business. Yep. And probably during the earlier 20th century, the 1900s, he would probably make indoor household appliances. 13 years 13 years after, in 1893, back in 1906 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he decided to have his own vacuum cleaner company, which is some vacuums which some some van companies probably came out before George Westinghouse came up with his rendition of the electric modern vacuum cleaners. Yep. Just today in this century, the vacuum museum is selling his fine vacuums that he did made since the first early 20th century, starting since 1906. There might have been some vacuums. There might have been the vacuums from that time period, like not just like Westinghouse, probably when Kirby first made popular that year. George Westinghouse probably did have some serious competition since 1906. That was probably 2 years before the Hoover Company made vacuums at the time. Yep. Once upon a time, we didn't have any household appliances to clean the house with. The first carpet beater first came out in 1599, and then later came the first portable carpet sweeper since 1858. Some of the portable vacuuming devices was considered made by hand. And of course, since the entire century, a century after the 1800s, which was definitely the century of the 19th at the time, during the 1900s and the 2000s, came the arrival of electric portable electric vacuum cleaners, such as good names like a year before him there was a year before him came probably came like Dirt Devil since 1905. They were a year popular before Westinghouse were a company in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I I do have cousins up there. Yeah. And and of course, sometime in 1797, some floor and floor coverings were cleaned up by brooms. Of course, that can be a massive clean up a carpet or rugs. But there was a solution to that problem, so we do so we have a solution to that problem. We would consider some form of cleaning device called the carpet sweeper, and then later on came the vacuum cleaner. Well, before I ramble on about vacuums, I guess I could call it quits and see you at the next video for After Breakfast on Sunday.